Part of me didn't really want to make this video, but I feel as though I kind of need to make it because every time I put out a Genshin video, people who are, Genshin diehards get mad at me and say, "You're just a hater." Well, I feel like, in essence, I should explain why my 4+ year journey with Genshin Impact has been a little bit sour lately. But I'm not only going to say what I'm sour about, I am going to talk about stuff I do like about the game. So then that way y'all know I am coming from an even, playing field in regards to likes and dislikes. I'm here to critique the game, and I've always believed that every CC, or even just in general, a player of the game should be able to talk about what they like and don't like without having to look at it from a rose-tinted glasses standpoint. A glass half full standpoint. You should be, as a player of your favorite game, be able to determine stuff that you like and don't like and still offer up criticism in a respectful and kind manner. I've tried that, and Genshin players have gotten mad at me saying, "Hey, you're not supposed to talk bad about our game." And to that I say, I don't care. I'm going to express how I feel. And this is coming from a guy who is a Hoyo creator as well. And I've never said anything that I don't agree with. I do think that Genshin is a decently good game. I'm not going to sit here and say it's the best game. I'm not going to sit here and say it's the best at anything. But it's like watching a TV show. You watch a certain show, and you may not like the show. It may not be your favorite show, but it's still something that you're like, you know what, I'll keep up on it. And that's how I feel about Genshin. It used to be one of my favorite games, but then I played other games. I watched other stuff, and I realized, yeah, Genshin is not exactly the best game out there. But I will go over what I like and what I dislike. So make sure to like, comment, subscribe if you agree with a lot of these points or even disagree. Let me know in the comments. Even though I hated the fact that most people were disagreeing, there were some, professionally crafted responses that said, "Hey, I may not agree with you on this, but I can understand where you're coming from." And I do appreciate those. Some of the Genshin community, not so much. So let's go ahead and first dive into that point. Now, of course, this is of my video about the Genshin dev notes. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this back up is because this is a prime example of when you disagree with something and you give constructive feedback in a actual video, with a little bit of comedy, I might add, how people will take it, and instead of, maybe talking about the points and saying something, that could be a constructive conversation, it turns out to be a, witch hunt, right? So some of these comments were good. People understood what I was talking about, but it came down to a bunch of stuff where it's just horrible of me to even say what I needed to say, right? So this was a perfect one, and I have talked about this guy before, this chocolate beef guy. He says, "Wow, this dude really just went, 'Where is my artifact loadouts?' in the face of a huge quality of life update. You got to be really stupid to expect 4 guaranteed rolls into artifacts. Go play something else, you bridge troll." Now, if this would have been constructed a little bit differently, obviously it would have been probably a more constructive feedback of what I said. But you could tell that this person didn't even actually watch the video in its entirety. I said, yes, where are the artifact loadouts? Because that is something that a lot of Genshin Impact players have been asking for. It's been in Hoyo Labs, it's been on Twitter, it's been on Reddit, it's been everywhere. So that was something that a lot of players want to see, and especially with Wuthering Waves, which I will be mentioning a lot, doing it in a recent update, very close to, the 1-year anniversary, by the way. It made sense to actually bring that up as a, issue. Now, of course, he says a huge quality of life update. It's not a huge quality of life update. These dev notes were not that good. It's literally just not that good. Now, it might be good for the casual player that doesn't pay attention to CCs or anything, and they're just playing Genshin Impact on the side for funsies, but it's not great for the people who actually care about the product, right? People who are just like, this isn't exactly that good. Now, to the second point, saying that I was expecting 4 guaranteed rolls into artifacts, that was not what I said. There was somebody in my friend group that said, it's very confusing, and it seems like we're going to be getting 4 guaranteed rolls, 2 for each of the stats we pick. And I even told them, no, that's probably not going to be it. Realistically speaking, it's going to be 2 with either 1-in-1 split or 2 in a singular one. Now, I said that it would have been a better choice to do that and exceed expectations, and it would have been great. But this person obviously did not. Like, watch the video. And then, of course, they said, I didn't, or at blank, I didn't quote you, learn some reading comprehension. Bro, your comment had nobody quoted on there. You literally talked about what I said in the video. And it's a lack of reading comprehension. There's a bunch of these comments too, like throughout this whole thing. Just because you don't need these updates doesn't mean no one needs them, which is fair. It's very fair. But then like it went into this whole like thing from this Kiju guy. Of course, out of all the things on there, the one you mentioned is the mail, which the mail thing was very dumb and unneeded. And basically said, people like you are the ones who destroy the community. Criticism and complaint is good. Criticism and complaint is good, but to this extent is just killing the morality of the fan base. So it's either one or the other. You can't critique a game and you can't complain about a game and it be good but not good at the same time. And so this is one of those things where you could just see like a bunch of these guys just do not understand how to actually say what is in their brain correctly, or even just comprehend when somebody disagrees with something. And it happens a lot more times than not. Every time I post a Genshin Impact video and I say anything negative about the game within the video, these types of comments happen, and it doesn't hurt my feelings. Like, I respond, yes, because I feel like either A, I should respond and at least correct them, or B, I should, at least tell them to shut up. But it's not just my comment section. A lot of CCs go through this as well. So I'm very small on the totem pole, and it makes me sad to see people act like this when you have legitimate criticisms for the game. Sorry, might have misedited there. When you're criticizing the game. Also, bear in mind, guys, I'm not a big editor. I don't know how to do this stuff, so if some of these are messed up, my apologies. I'm trying to do better. But it's really not just that part of the community that really upsets me. There's also CCs that really tick me off with how they act, especially, in one of my videos where I critiqued a couple of CCs within the space of Genshin, Wuthering Waves, and all that, that have some very predatory aspects about them in the child area. And a lot of people came after my head about that, and many came after me because of one of the Genshin Impact CCs that was making tier lists saying it was a joke. I'm just going to tell you guys right now, that's not a joke. That's not funny. That's very disgusting. And if you really do defend that person, please stay away from my chat. Please stay away from my comment section. I don't want it. This is the only time where I'm going to say you will be blocked, because I don't want to deal with anybody that has those type of predatory urges. Now, of course, enough talking about the community. Let's go ahead and talk about the actual game itself. For me personally, Genshin Impact is actually a decently fun game. There's a couple things that I don't like about, what's going on in the game, but at the end of the day, like, I think that the gameplay is fine for the most part. There are a couple things that need to be, fixed. Elemental reactions, I think, are really, good in concept, but elemental reactions are not fair across the board, right? Some are better than others, like Dendro with Electro, and some of them are just bad, like Cryo. We know that Cryo is bad, and Cryo happens to be my favorite element in the game. I love all the characters from there. There's a lot of hot mamas in there. Ganyu's in there as well. Silali's in there, and they're fantastic. I love them. Ganyu and Silali being my number 1 and number 2 characters. The problem is that it just doesn't work out that well. Now, again, elemental reactions overall are fun, but they just need to fine tune it to where all elemental reactions to get as their separate reactions are able to actually be I guess the best way is in competition with each other. Like, it shouldn't just be like Electro Dendro all the time, or Pyro Hydro. It should be, Cryo and Pyro, or Cryo and Hydro as well, like getting the freeze comps and all that. It should be Geo up there as well. I'm just saying, like, if it improves that, I think that the elemental reaction system would be a lot better. Well, until they add a new element. Talking about quest lines now, I definitely say that certain quest lines are really, really good. I love the main story of Fontaine, personally. I didn't think it was just like, like Tectone has said before, where he thought it was just the Fiorina and Nouvellette side. I honestly liked all of Fontaine's quest line. I thought it was really nice. And it did something to me that not a lot of games could do. I started out hating Fiorina. I thought that she was, annoying, and I didn't like her attitude. But then once you actually got to know it, or know her in general and know her story, like, it made you think like, wow, she's actually really, really a good character and a good person in general, just got dealt a very crappy hand. And that's why I loved, or still do, I love Fiorina. I think she's fantastic. I wouldn't ruin my marriage for her, right? But somebody else did. But in regards to that, like, there's also the story about Conria and learning more about it. And I think that that's something that's really cool, especially, learning about Dainsleif and your sibling. I think that overall that is awesome. The problem that I have with the story is that there's a lack of world building outside of just your traveler, right? Or of the siblings. You're basically, every other region is at a standstill while you are helping another region. Like, boom, you get done with Mondstadt, you go to Liyue, nothing's happening in Mondstadt. You get done with Liyue, you go to Inazuma, nothing's going on in Liyue or Mondstadt. And it just kind of goes on. And yeah, there's the events that kind of supplement that, but there isn't enough, in my opinion, or any that really just give you that substance that really take you away from doing the main story. Like, I'm not going to Mondstadt and being like, oh crap, there's another major thing that's been going on, and they've been trying to do this, trying to do that. Maybe you could help us really quick with just the final stretch or something along those lines, right? Like, you're not hearing anything that's happening outside of what is going on with the Traveler. So to me, that's how I feel in regards to that part of the storyline. But at the same time, there's another glaring error with the story. And it's not because of the voice actor, in my opinion. It's just how the character is written, and that's Paimon. And I know that people are probably going to come at me and be like, everybody complains about that, because it's a legitimate complaint. I don't want to sit there through a story and basically be told the story through Dora the Explorer. Like, we make jokes all the time, and some of us who are way too old, like me, Gotcha Grandpa, who have the memories of, like, seeing Dora the Explorer, whatever, right? I don't think that anybody truly wants to go through the story, being told the story so many times and being told what's happening so many times in this concept. Like, nobody wants to deal with that. And if you do like that, if you do need those types of refreshers, then yeah, Genshin Impact's the greatest game for you. And so is watching Dora the Explorer, and so is watching, Nick Jr. Like, any type of show from there, like, that's perfect for you. And that's all fine and dandy, but not everybody wants to go through that. And that's why a lot of, CCs and players ask about the skip function, right? It's perfect for us who don't want to hear Paimon reiterate the story over and over again, right? So that's at least my take on that part. I have no bad ill will to the voice actors. I think the voice actors do a great job, but it's just when it comes to the actual concept of what the characters are doing, like Paimon, I hate it. I hate it so much. But I will say, outside of the story, right? There are really, really good things to the world. There's the world designs in general when it comes to the new maps. Like, obviously, we have the new Natland stuff coming in 5.5, and that map looks really, really good, especially being in the air and being able to travel through the air with that. Of course, either with the free-to-play animals that aren't as good as the 5-star characters, but I digress. It still looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. And then the boss designs are really, really cool as well. I do like actually battling new bosses and finding out, like, what makes them tick. But at the same time, when it comes to the bosses in particular, like, I learned how they tick 5 seconds into the thing, and then they're just dead the next minute because the characters are so overly powerful. Now, I'm not saying that we need to have HP sponges. I think that we need to find something mechanic wise that's going to make these boss battles a lot more enjoyable. Now, again, if you're farming, you don't want it to be a long drawn out process, especially now that we have the quality of life that, you know, bosses spawn after a minute. I'm just saying that maybe there's a way to make these bosses a little bit more special for the players that actually want to battle the bosses longer. Speaking of, you know, timing, one huge thing in regards to time is the time to resource farming when it comes to Genshin Impact. Now, bear in mind, at the time of when Genshin launched, it made a little bit of sense, I guess. You know, you have all these characters that just came out, and you want to kind of flow with who you're going to build. So, like, you could build Bennett one day, you could go into your 5-star Venti the next day, and then the next day you got Xing Shou, you could build him up. I get it. I get it to that degree. But we have 70 plus characters in the game. Like, time to resource farming should not be a thing. You could even look at the other two games in Hoyoverse's library with HSR and ZZZ. It's not time gated. So why is this such a contention from Genshin Impact players that we should get rid of this entirely? I just don't get that. Like, why do you like to be, like, corralled into just this, like, oh, I can only do this on Sunday, this on Monday, this on Tuesday, this on Wednesday? Like, you want to build a character, right? You want to get the build done with, right? But you don't have the resources to constantly resin refresh, right? You don't want to spend your money to do that. So why are you so, like, hesitant to be happy about this? I've seen players get mad about this point being brought up. And even their competitor Wuwa does this. Like, they open up everything for you to farm. So why is this such a big contention? I don't get it. I don't get how this could be anything less than bad for the game. So open it up to where everything can be farmed every day, and that would be already a big quality of life update that should happen, right? And that kind of dives into one of the major things that I'm very upset about when it comes to the dev team of Genshin Impact. And I feel like a lot of people will contend with me on this, but first hear me out in general, right? I think that the dev team does not listen to the player base. And I've said this multiple times, and it's rattled a bunch of cages, right? But I want you to really, like, take the time to think about this. Are you thinking about it from the perspective of, oh, many players needed this? Or are you thinking about it as, I want this, or I needed this, or I don't want this, or I don't need this, right? I think that everybody needs to look at it from an individual standpoint. Like, don't look at it as, oh, well, 5 people on this subreddit said that they needed it, so why is it such a big deal? What do you want, right? What do you think is good and what is not, right? And that's the whole point of this. Like, I don't mind people disagreeing with my opinion when it comes to this, but I'm not the only one that says that these dev notes are terrible. I'm not the only one that says that Genshin's dev team doesn't listen. And it's blatantly obvious when it comes to other games as well, because ZZZ hoping that they don't turn into this, because HSR is slowly turning into that as well. But ZZZ, in their own franchise of games, tends to listen to its player base. Wuwa, Kuro Games, have gone out of their way to provide quality content that the player base asks for. And before anybody says, oh, well, it's the minority in regards to Twitter and all that stuff, in my opinion, you could be right about Genshin in regards to that. The silent majority is going to stay silent. People are not going to answer surveys. They don't care. And if they do go to the surveys, it's about minuscule type things. But I want to ask you this. What is wrong with players actually giving ideas to make the game better? Right? And you could say, like, oh, well, we like it when CCs respectfully say something. And that's a fair point. But CCs who respectfully say, like, hey, I wish they would do this, still get reamed on by the community for saying, hey, I think this could be better. Like, we just saw a video where I said the dev notes were crap, and here's why. And I gave, you know, constructive criticism on what's going on, but people took it as you're hating, you're a hater, quit the game. Like, number one, your first argument should not be quit the game if you don't like it, because that's a stupid argument. It's mute. Like, or moot. Is it moot or moot? I think it is. Like, just because I don't like, you know, broccoli all the time doesn't mean I'm going to stop eating it, right? It's something that I don't like to eat all the time, but I'm going to eat it. You know, it's healthy for me. It's how it is. Like, nobody could just sit there and eat pizza and tacos every day, right? We got to eat healthy. That's why I'm trying to lose weight, because I did that and I was a grumpy person. I hated my life. I was depressed. Now I'm depressed and trying to get fit. But I digress. All I'm saying is that there is nothing wrong with listening to your playlist. This goes to, like, the CCs wanting their voices heard, and being those voices for the people who are, you know, wanting their voices to be heard as well. Like, voice of the voiceless type stuff. I'm not saying that we're holier than thou, but at the same time, we CCs are the ones who can gather people who have these differing opinions. So it's good for us to be able to say what we think is wrong with the game, and if there's more people that agree with that, then there's no problem. Censorship. I think that censorship is terrible for Genshin Impact. Look at ZZZ, the biggest Gooner game right now, and there's nothing wrong with being a Gooner game because people are enjoying it. Like, men are going after the hot women, and women are going after the hot men. Men are going after the hot men, and women are going after the hot women. It's perfect. It's a perfect game for, like, everyone in that regard. And there's nothing wrong with a little bit of sex selling, right? I'm just saying, like, Genshin Impact has done it before with, like, characters like Yelan looking, you know, Yai Miko's flirtatious side. There's so many different things. And then they just recently did that whole bathhouse photo. And I'm not saying it was, like, the sexiest thing out there, but that was the most risque thing that Genshin has done. And people were talking about it. And there's nothing wrong with it. Guys, it is normal in society nowadays for anything, like, to be, or not anything, but, you know, adult men and women to be sexified. There's nothing wrong with it. Like, people find things attractive. There's nothing wrong with finding things attractive. It's why I hated when they censored freaking Rosaria 3 times. They nerfed her chest size twice, and then they freaking got her a different outfit because they thought she was too risque. Bro, who cares? I mean, I still have the other costume, but again, it's so stupid. The censorship is very dumb, in my opinion. It's the same with, like, the Pokemon card censorship type stuff or Yu-Gi-Oh card censorship. It's just stupid. I get why it's there, but it's stupid. So that's just it. And then, of course, I have something in particular when it comes to a lack of listening to the player base in general, right? People throw out, like, oh, on the Eastern side, people don't have these problems, which is false. There's a lot of Eastern players that do have this issue. Like, you know, it's not just on our side. We're just more vocal about it because we have, you know, the gumption to say what we want to say. You know, I'm not saying that they don't, but I'm just saying, like, they've said it, but they're not pursuing that they have this issue. We do. We say it. We don't mind giving critiques. Some of us are a little bit unhinged with our, you know, opinions, but I don't think there's anything wrong with criticizing a game and saying, I wish that they would listen to us. As players, as CCs, as anything. So I think people just get into this notion of, like, don't speak ill about my game, right? Now, I do want to talk about one more thing that I do like, but it does need improvement. Serenity Pot. I think it's a wonderful addition to Genshin Impact. I thought it was great when it first came out. My only gripes with Serenity Pot is that, why is it so limited? I don't understand. It's so limited in regards to what you could build and how much space you got. And maybe that's because of, like, you know, the game not breaking or anything like that. But I think that you could go and find ways to make the game not break and expand the Serenity Pot to where I can build more stuff on each island. That's a small thing, but at the same time, it's how I feel about Serenity Pot. I know this video is getting long, and I know that this probably should have been at the front of the video, but I wanted to wait to talk about this because it's going to be a direct comparison. And I want people to understand that it's a realistic expectation. But Genshin's gacha system is outdated. Now, before anybody comes at me and says HSR is the same one, HSR's gacha system is outdated. If you look at ZZZ and even Wuthering Waves, well, maybe not ZZZ. Forget ZZZ. Like, scratch out ZZZ because ZZZ has the same exact gacha system. I don't know why I was going with ZZZ. I had a brain fart. If you go to Wuwa's weapon banner is you summon on it, you get the weapon. I'm not saying that it's going to be the easiest summons, but if you go to Pity, you get that weapon. You're summoning specifically for that weapon. For ZZZ, they do. This is why I said that. I remember now. They have the Bang Boos. You select the Bang Boo you want. You summon for the Bang Boo. You get exactly the Bang Boo that you want. Now, could they extend it to their W engines? Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think there's anything wrong with making it so your weapons are easy to obtain. I should not have to pay the same amount for a character that I would for a weapon. I'll say it again for the people in the back. I should not have to pay to summon for a weapon for the same amount that I summon for a character. The character and the weapon are not the content of a game. If you are basing content off of every character and weapon, that is a very flawed mindset, and it shows how predatory a gacha game can be. I want that to be 100% clear. The weapon banner should be you summon on the weapon banner, you get the weapon after a certain amount of time. It should not be a 50-50. It should not be a 75-25. And it definitely sure shouldn't be what Genshin used to be, where it was like, oh, you have a 75-25 chance, and then you have a 50-50 chance on top of that 75. Like, is this Scott Steiner math? Like, what are we doing? It was such a stupid thing, and it's still stupid now, right? And overall, gacha's predatory, but at least when you're summoning for a character, like, it makes sense. Weapons, it doesn't. It doesn't make sense to do it that way. But, of course, people love their PNGs, and that's perfectly fine. I love my PNGs too, but I'm just more realistic with it. Now, for me being a Genshin Impact player, what am I doing to help this? Well, I'm not really doing anything to help much. I'm complaining online. But I am going to say this. I have stopped spending as much money on Genshin Impact. I still play a lot. I do play every single day to do my dailies, to do any events that are up there, and even every once in a while I'll play a multiplayer event with my friends because I do enjoy the game to some degree. However, I am trying not to spend like money on the game outside of the battle pass. That's all I get is the battle pass. And the only reason why I even get the battle pass is to keep me updated on like materials that I might need later on to help out with characters. Am I going to be summoning for Varesa? Probably. I have a lot of free-to-play currency that I've accumulated through the last 3 patches because I haven't really summoned. And if I did, I got the character relatively easy. It's why you also haven't really seen that many Genshin Impact summon videos lately. And it's the same thing as to why you haven't seen HSR summon videos either. Because I'm cutting back because I'm finally breaking through that wall of if it's not making me like happy to summon, then I shouldn't become an addict. And that's what it was for a little bit. I've been playing games like Wuwa, Nikke, and ZZZ that have actually given me a lot of entertainment. And yes, you could say that Nikke is the same, or not Nikke, ZZZ is the same as Genshin and Honkai Star Rail. But at the same time, I'm finding way more enjoyment from ZZZ and actually having fun than I am with HSR, which is coming out with a global passive that just reeks of nastiness. And now Genshin, who just has a dev team that doesn't care about the player base in general. Sure, maybe the minority of the player base or the majority of the player base is getting like the super easy quality of life with being able to play on the phone with a controller, which is great. It's probably the best thing to come out of that dev notes. Or being able to look at the mail and talk to, you know, freaking whoever, like looking at Diona's old mail or whatever the heck, like whatever makes you happy, right? But at the end of the day, when I look at Genshin Impact, I'm not saying I hate the game. I'm very indifferent now. And I'm playing it because I do want to see the story continue. Is it the best story? No, it definitely is not. But at the same time, if you look at it, Dragon Ball Super was not the best story from Dragon Ball, yet I still watched the whole thing. Like, I think that a lot of people get into this mindset, and this is where I'll call out the other side of the negative naysayers. I think that a lot of people get into the mindset of hating Genshin Impact to where they can't fathom somebody enjoying parts of Genshin Impact that they truly like. And like sometimes gets blown out of proportion and said as, oh, I absolutely love this. This is great. But some of us, like myself, use like as it is. I like it. It doesn't mean that, you know, it's the best thing since sliced bread. It doesn't mean that the game is the best game since, you know, freaking Super Mario Bros. 2 or Elden Ring. But I enjoy it. I do enjoy the game. I just wish that the Genshin team would understand. And I think the only way to truly make it understand is to vote with our wallets. Don't spend $400 by getting a character and a weapon. Like, instead, you know, just either don't spend completely or keep your spending to a minimum. Now, is that going to happen? No. There are people out there that are going to be summoning for multiples of characters and constellations. With 26 million in the bank this last month, even from the Sejuani and Sejuani rerun banner with, you know, Mizuki, who's going on standard banner, Genshin's not going anywhere anytime soon. So my complaining is not going to do a damn thing, except for make my conscience be clear about everything that I put out there. Now, if you watch this video in its entirety, and this is a 32-minute long video so far, I appreciate you. I appreciate you hearing me out, and hopefully we could have a good colloquy of diverse answers where we could actually talk about things instead of insulting each other and being, you know, just overall pests within the community. Because at the end of the day, if we could have a logical and smart conversation about things and be able to see the other's point of view, I think that makes it a better conversation. However, I don't want to see people be freaking idiots in my comment section and insult me, calling me the problem when all I've done is just say my opinions of the game. But of course, that's never going to stop. Y'all are going to say it anyway. I don't really care that much. I care, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to be able to stop it. So I need to learn how to not care as much as I do. But yeah, that's about it. I'm done rambling. Like, comment, subscribe if you like all this stuff. Definitely let me know in the comments down below your opinions on Genshin Impact. Do you like it? Do you hate it? What do you agree or disagree with me? Just letting you guys know, there might be a little bit of delays when it comes to videos this coming week. I'm taking the good old PC in to get fixed up, making sure that everything's good, because for some reason games keep crashing outside of Genshin Impact. Genshin Impact's the only one that runs on this computer, apparently. But yeah, I will be taking the PC in, so I'm going to try and record some videos beforehand so that there's not going to be a lapse of videos, but we'll see how it goes. Anyways, y'all, that's going to be it. Love you guys to death, and as always, we will catch you in the next video. Please take care and be safe.